Okay, let's get started. So, hi, I'm Anya Zhang. I'm a rising sophomore at Walter Johnson High School, and I've just taken AP Gov last school year, and I'm super excited to teach you all. And if you have any questions during the lesson, you can unmute yourself or you can say something in the chat, and I'll try to answer it. So first, we're gonna start with an icebreaker since I want to get to know you all, and then we'll continue to learn about the Constitutional Convention, and then we'll move on to learn about Federalists and Anti-Federalists, and then learn about the provisions of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So before we start, let's start with an icebreaker. So in the chat, can you say your name, your grade, and your favorite ice cream color? Um, can everyone say their name, their grade, and then their favorite ice cream flavor so I can get to know you? Ooh, a lot of strawberries. Okay, okay. So you may already know this, but the Constitution is the basis for the U.S. government and is the highest law of the land. And it basically grants, ooh, more chat. Ooh, black sesame is a good flavor. So it basically grants all the powers of the government. So let's talk about the Constitutional Convention. Why was it held? So the Constitutional Convention was held in 1787 to revise the previous founding document, which is the Articles of Confederation. And the Articles was very flawed since it established too weak of a national government and two not uniform state governments. So the national government couldn't tax, enforce laws, or regulate trade. And the state governments didn't have any uniform currency, which is like a problem since the states can't cooperate. So during the convention, the framers decided to, they were planning to revise it, but they just decided to create a whole new document called the Constitution. So there are three main compromises made during, tell me if I'm going too fast. I'll slow down. So there are three main compromises made during the Constitutional Convention. The first one is the Great Compromise or the Connecticut Compromise, and basically the framers could not decide whether to have states in Congress be represented equally or by population. The Great Compromise establishes a bicameral legislature where the House of Representatives is represented by population and Senate equally. So it basically created our modern day Congress since there's two houses, and bicameral just means a two-house legislature. So, so in the Senate, there's two senators each for each state, so it's all equal. And then in the House, it's based on population. So in like California, which is a heavily populated state, there are 53 House reps, and then in Maryland, which is like a lighter populated states, there's only 8. So the second compromise is the Electoral College, which it was created as a way to elect the president. So basically, each state has a specific amount of Electoral College votes, which is the sum of the number of the House and Senate seats. So in Maryland, they basically have 10 Electoral College votes, since 8 plus 2 is 10. And the presidential candidate who wins the popular vote, which is just what the citizens decide, what the citizens vote, who wins the popular vote of a state gets the Electoral College votes. And the candidate with the most Electoral College votes becomes president. And then the third compromise is the 3/5 compromise. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It's a compromise between the North and the South, and it established that 3 out of every 5 slaves were counted in representation and taxation. So once the Constitution was created, there were 2 sides that people began taking. The first one was the Federalists. They are for the Constitution, and Alexander Hamilton and James Madison were famous Federalists who wrote the Federalist Papers to convince others to ratify the Constitution. Hi, welcome. So the Federalist Papers, there's a lot of them. If you want to know more about it, I can post them to Google Classroom and you can read over them. And each of them have like a different topics that they focus on, and it convinced people that the Constitution is good. And another side that formed was the anti-federalists, who were against the Constitution since they believed it created too strong of a central government. Hi, welcome. Too strong of a central government, which could result in tyranny, which they don't want, since before the U.S. was like its own country, it was with Britain, and it was pretty tyrannical. So they didn't want tyranny again. They don't want to experience that again. So basically, Bruce 1 is a paper written by an anonymous author who argues the side of the anti-federalists. So let's move on to the Bill of Rights. Why was it created? The Bill of Rights was created to get anti-federalists to approve the Constitution. It also to protect the individual and state rights from the federal government and avoid tyranny. And it was written by James Madison, and it's the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. So the First Amendment has 5 parts. It includes everyone's freedom of speech, the press, religion, petition, and assembly. So speech, you can say, like, in public, you can say whatever you want, and you won't get, like, fined or, like, arrested for it most of the time. The press, you can say whatever you want in, like, newspaper and stuff. Religion, you can have whatever religion. Petition, we commonly use petition. If you ever like signed a change.org, that's a petition, and it's basically allowed through the First Amendment. And assembly is like gathering, like the protests, everyone's gathering. The Second Amendment is just the right to bear arms or guns. It's very controversial, and in the next lesson you'll see the 2 parties, the Democrats and Republicans, what they think of gun rights. The Third Amendment is no quartering troops in private homes. So back again when Britain was controlling America, the British soldiers would be forced into like people's homes to live there, and they eat their food, and they like sleep in their beds. So they wanted to make sure that wouldn't happen again. The Fourth Amendment is no unreasonable right. No unreasonable search and seizure. So you basically need a search warrant. Any police that want to search you needs a search warrant. Not just any like suspicion of you. They actually need the paper. The Fifth Amendment protects you against double jeopardy, which means you can't be tried twice for the same crime you have already been tried. You can't go to court twice for the same crime. And then self-incrimination. So you have the right to remain silent. If you ever like saw TV shows, if you like plead the fifth, that's basically pleading to be silent. The Sixth Amendment is the right to a quick and speedy trial by jury. So, okay, jury. So the jury is, I don't know if you ever heard like your friends or family, they might get like put on jury duty. So it's a citizen who helped decide the verdict of the case. The Seventh Amendment is just the right to jury in a civil lawsuit, which isn't like criminal, like you committed a crime. It's more like suing other people. The Eighth Amendment protects against cruel and unusual punishment and excessive fines and bails. So I wouldn't be fined like $1 million if I robbed like a candy shop. The Ninth Amendment protects any individual rights that are not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution. So, like the right to privacy, it's not directly mentioned in the Constitution, but you still have it. Like the government can't invade your privacy. But that's more controversial today. And then the 10th Amendment gives states reserve powers, which means that not reserve powers, which are powers that are not given to the national government nor denied to the states, goes to states. So, for example, the the right to make laws on education was not given to the national government nor denied to the states. So states make legislation about education. So let's talk about the articles of the Constitution. So Article 1 grants powers to the legislative branch. So that includes, if you looked at the vocab sheet, that include the necessary and proper clause, which basically allows Congress to do all things necessary and proper. So, for example, Congress can make laws on airport security, even though nothing about airplanes is mentioned in the Constitution. And also, the Commerce Clause is also in Article 1, which basically says Congress can regulate interstate trade. Article 2 grants powers to the executive branch. So you'll see like commander-in-chief, the power of the president to order around U.S. troops is in the second article. And the third article grants powers to the judicial branch. So the Constitution doesn't really give that much power to the judicial branch, but you'll see in later lessons they have the power of judicial review, which was decided through a court case rather than given to them through the Constitution. And then Article 4 grants powers to the state. So here you can see federalism, that was also on the vocab sheet if you didn't look at it, where the states and the national government, they share powers. So these here are the national, let me get the pointer. These here are the national government, and then this is powers given to the state. And then Article 5 concerns the amendment process. In case there's any like changes that need to be made to the Constitution, Article 5 says the process to need to be amended, like the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. So that wasn't originally in the Constitution, but it was added in later. Article 6 expresses the Supremacy Clause, which is also on the vocab sheet, and it basically says that national government is over state government. So if they make laws that contradict each other, the state law is executed. And then Article 7 concerns the ratification process. So just the ratification process of the Constitution, and it basically said that 3/4 of the states needed to approve of the Constitution in order for it to be like law of the land. So yeah, um, that was kind of short, but thanks for coming. And if you have any questions or slides you want me to go back to, I'll be happy to do that. So just say in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. I don't know if I went too fast on your part. Um, here's the condensed list of all the Bill of Rights amendments. So if you want to take a screenshot or something, feel free to do it now. I'll also post this to Google Classroom. So if you just don't want to take it, or you don't know how to take a screenshot on the computer,